Excellent. That clarifies that. We now come to business questions. I call the Shadow Leader of the House, Lucy Powell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To ask the Leader of the House for next week's business.
Speaker, the business for the week commencing the 15th of January will include, on Monday the 15th of January, Committee of the Whole House and remaining stages of the Animal Welfare Livestock Exports Bill. Tuesday the 16th of January, Committee of the Whole House of the Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill Day 1. Wednesday the 17th of January, Committee of the Whole House of the Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill Day 2. Thursday the 18th of January, a debate on a motion on the loan charge, followed by a debate on a motion on HS2 compensation. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday the 19th of January, private members' bills. The provisional business for the week commencing the 22nd of January includes, on Monday the 22nd of January, second reading of the Offshore Petroleum Licensing Bill.
Powell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and Happy New Year to you, to staff, to members and to those watching. It might be a new year, but I'm afraid it's the same old story. A government that's run out of road, out of ideas, not fixing the problems we face, but making them worse. And many on her own side have now reached the same conclusion. Yet another MP resigning, having lost trust. Another admitting that over their 13 years things have got worse. A former immigration minister taking to the airwaves to say their Rwanda plan won't work. And it's only the first week back. But some things have changed, Mr Speaker. The Prime Minister seems to have had a dramatic reversal in strategy. Despite just months ago saying he was the change candidate, rather laughably, his latest reset confirmed what we all know. He's now just offering more of the same. More of the same low growth, more of the same high taxes, more of the same backlogs and broken public services, more of the same historically low living standards. Only this hapless Prime Minister would set himself targets that were hard to miss and then miss them. And further confirmation today, new figures from the BBC showing every NHS target missed. Not just this last year, when they want to blame the strikes, or indeed since the pandemic, which might be a little understandable. No, key NHS targets missed in each and every one of the last 7 years. That's the second half of their time in office, after all their decisions and policies took effect. That's the record of this government. So let's have that debate in this election year about the choice the voters will face. More of the same failure from the party opposite, or change and hope with Labour? Mr Speaker, I'd like to turn to the sub-postmaster scandal. We welcomed the government's announcement of emergency legislation to quickly pardon those wrongfully convicted and stand ready to work with them. What has now come to wider public attention is the travesty, injustice and 2 decades of struggle they face. Can the leader give us more details today and ensure us that as the spotlight inevitably moves on, the government won't take its foot off the gas in getting urgent justice and redress and accountability? But this goes wider, Mr Speaker. It follows a similar pattern to other injustices where the state or corporate cover-up has wronged ordinary people. Windrush, infected blood, building safety in Grenfell, Hillsborough and more. All these cases, transpiring over decades, came to public awareness after the notable efforts of backbenchers and dogged journalists working with the victims. Today's government should be learning wider lessons. Firstly, to get recourse and redress. This proves every time to be incredibly difficult, lengthy, costly, fighting against powerful organisations which employ smoke and mirrors, expensive lawyers and enjoy the protection of the establishment, leaving victims facing years and years of frustrating battle. No amount of money can actually compensate for a life ruined. How is the government collectively reviewing these recent scandals to make it easier for group action against vested interests? Can she now ensure that the government will also expedite compensation in the Windrush scheme for victims of the infected blood still being frustrated, pay out for the remediation of building safety where innocent leaseholders are still left in limbo, and bring in a legal duty of candour demanded by the Hillsborough families. Isn't justice delayed, justice denied? Another big learning is for accountability. Time and again, we see those responsible rewarded for failure, not accountable for their failings, with more government contracts, bonuses, gongs and peerages, and the costs being picked up by the taxpayer. So, and I've asked her this before, will she make it easier for Parliament to strip people of honours and peerages where they are found responsible for serious failings? Will she also condemn the practice, as we saw over the new year, of honours actually being awarded for failure? And will she bring forward proposals to go after those responsible to pay financially and face the consequences, and put an end to the revolving door of awarding government contracts, in the case of Fujitsu, worth apparently several £billion? Isn't it any wonder that trust in politics has been so eroded when people don't see any accountability, with ordinary people picking up the bill while those responsible get off scot-free?
House.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and Happy New Year to you and all colleagues. I was delighted this week to welcome Holocaust survivor Marla Tribick to the Commons, where she viewed the exhibition at Portcullis House, and I would encourage all members to go and see that exhibit. I'm sure I also speak for the whole House when I say our thoughts remain with the hostages still kept captive in Gaza. Next week sees us pass the 100th day since they were taken, and just as our thoughts remain with all those innocents caught up in those events. And could I also, Mr Speaker, just give a shout out to the Royal Navy's rowing team, HMS Audacious, who are rowing the Atlantic for mental health support, as they may land before next week's session with just 500 nautical miles to go, and they are currently 100 miles ahead of the next team. Turning to the substantive issue that the lady raises with regard to the post office scandal, the Honourable Lady will know about existing legislation that was announced on the 29th of November, but I think it is to be welcomed that we are now taking these unprecedented steps to quash convictions, and I know that that work is well underway and that we want to bring it to the House swiftly. The House will be aware of the risks outlined by the Minister, but I think we will find them necessary. While the inquiry will look at some of the issues that have been raised in this place, I think the Honourable Lady is right that we should reflect now on what we could learn and what we should conclude, in particular, about the powers given to arms of the state, and what operational independence should actually mean for those organisations. I think we have been right to do some of the things that we have done on subsequent Conservative administrations in gripping and trying to resolve some very difficult and long-running issues, from Windrush to the apology now given by my neighbour Lord Cameron to the Hillsborough families, to the apology given by former members of our armed forces, by this Prime Minister who had been shamed and driven for service, out of service for being gay, to the 2017 infected blood inquiry and the later compensation study, which will make amends for some amends for the decades of injustice and suffering people have endured. And I'm optimistic that we will reach some justice for those affected in this year, and I know the Paymaster General is working to do that. We were right to have a full public inquiry into the Horizon Post Office scandal, and we have rightly heard much about that this week, including statements in UQs. And I would also pay tribute to all honourable and right honourable members, and also my noble Lord Arbuthnot, for the work they have done on this issue, but also my honourable friend, the member for Thirsk and Malton. In 2021, as a backbencher, he was fighting hard for sub-postmasters, and he diligently pursued this in his ministerial role, and that is his record on this issue and much else too. And I would just remind the House that when he was chair of the APPG on fair business banking, he helped get compensation for people whose businesses had been deliberately and cynically destroyed by their lenders, winning compensation from Lloyds, HBOS and RBS to the tune of hundreds of millions of pounds. He is a very good man, and I know he will bring forward legislation on this issue very, very quickly. She mentions the NHS performance data. Monthly performance data shows that overall waiting lists fell by more than 95,000, down to 7.6 million from November from October. There were 60,000 fewer patients waiting for care in November than the previous month, and 112,000 fewer than in September. We have some very difficult issues to deal with post-pandemic, but the Prime Minister's plan is working, and I know that the new Secretary of State for Health is bringing forward further measures. We have stood up, as the Honourable Lady opposite will know, an enormous number of new services, new healthcare professionals, immense numbers of new diagnostic centres, and are vastly increasing the number of operations able to be taken place. But I don't wish to take any lectures from the Honourable Lady on performance in the NHS. I would point her to what Labour is doing in Wales. I think the current situation is 4 times worse than England in terms of waiting lists. Nor will I take any lessons from a party on tax that, where it is in power, is clobbering British citizens. It is doubling rates in Wales. Its London mayor is clobbering hard-working people and charities with ULEZ. He's just capitulated to the militant trade unions on transport and doesn't know where to find the money to do that. They are soft on crime. The Met's 70 million black hole in their budget demonstrates that. Time and time again, where Labour are in power, they show they are not on the side of the British people.
Proud of the House of Peter Bottomley.
My right honourable friend rightly mentioned the Holocaust exhibition, and you, sir, will be leading the Holocaust service in a few days' time. The Holocaust survivor I met recently was Anita Lasker-Wallfish, who said the proposed memorial in Victoria Tower Gardens was too small for its purpose and too large for the park. As in next week's business, the hybrid committee will be meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday. Could my right honourable friend consider talking to the Department for Culture, Media and Sport and the Department for Levelling Up to see whether they could put up on a temporary basis scaffolding which will show the amount of space taken by the box for the so-called learning centre, and perhaps some plywood boards to illustrate the 23 fins are supposed to be there, and then we could go around the outside of the park and see whether they're visible from outside, and see from inside how much damage they do to this well-loved park.
Leader.
Well, can I thank my right honourable friend for his question, and I know that he is continuing to press on this particular project. He will know that I'm limited in what I can do personally to assist him, but I will write to the Secretary of State for the Department of Levelling Up to make sure he's heard again what the honourable gentleman has said today.
SNP spokesperson Deidre.
Blian ur, Happy New Year to you, Mr. Speaker, to everyone in this place and to everyone watching indeed. Some positive news to start our first business questions for 2024. Recent data from the ONS and the Scottish Parliament Information Centre, the Scottish Parliament's Commons Library equivalent, shows that Scotland's gender pay gap is at a record low, and almost half that of the UK as a whole, with women's weekly full-time pay rising by over 10% over the last year. Now, while any gap is of course too high, I'm sure the leader would like to acknowledge the Scottish Government's Gender Pay Gap Action Plan, the first in the UK, which has undoubtedly helped with those welcome results. Now, it seems to me there are several steps the Leader's government could also take to help end the gender pay gap and advance equality right across these aisles. After repeatedly shelving the employment bill, they could finally act to make workplaces fairer, particularly in the current cost of living crisis, which we know impacts on women more. They could legislate for mandatory gender and ethnicity pay gap reporting. They could finally deliver compensation for WASPy women who have waited far too long to receive justice. And more broadly, they could tackle the gender pensions gap, with yearly incomes among pensioners on average over £7,000 a year lower for women than men. And while she considers her response to those suggestions, could she also respond to reports in the media her government blocked a minority ethnic woman from joining the board of Channel 4 without offering a reason? And I'm curious to hear what action she took in response to the recent comments by the Home Secretary and whether she'll condemn them now. They do nothing to dispel perceptions that a culture of misogyny in the UK government is what's hampering progress on these issues. As a former Minister for Equalities, Women and Equalities, these matters are, I am sure, close to her heart. So will she support a debate on them where perhaps some solutions might finally be agreed?
Yeah.
Well, can I also wish the Honourable Lady a very happy new year? And I do welcome some good news with regard to the gender pay gap in Scotland. And it's nice to see the SNP actually championing some good progress in Scotland and giving credit where credit is due. With regard to the UK government's record, we are making good progress. Since 2010, we have an additional 2 million more women in work, and as the author of the Women in Work roadmap, which looks at every aspect of a woman's life and tries to address the reasons why she is financially disadvantaged when she leaves school, right through her life, right through raising a family, and the pensions gap. I absolutely know that this government is committed to delivering on those disparities. She raises the issue of Channel 4. I do not know the answer to that, and I can give her that today, but I shall certainly make sure the relevant department has heard that, and she will know that she will know both what the Home Secretary has already said about the other matter that she raises, and I hope she will also know that the Home Secretary is a very decent fellow who loves his wife greatly. They've been through a lot in recent years as a couple, and the Honourable Lady will also know that. I would conclude, Mr. Speaker, by just adding some further good news about Scotland, which I hope the Honourable Lady will welcome, and that is that I'm delighted that part of the Stone of Destiny has been now recovered from SNP HQ, and I'm sure this is great relief to all members. It is easy to lose things, I know, like a couple of billion quid from your budget. But I'm sorry to hear that they have taken as much care of it as they have as the stewards of Scotland's public services. Happily, Mr. Speaker, the Tupperware container that it was stored in has protected it during its stay and the police raids on that premises. And I would join with my Scottish colleagues in encouraging the SNP to find a more suitable home for it.
Yeah. Sir John Hayes.
Mr. Speaker, traditional craft skills provide jobs and sustain businesses, and they also epitomise our shared history, everything from wheelwrights to weavers, from corsetry to carpentry. So it was very good news that after a long campaign by the all-party group I chair, the government has announced that we will now join, as a country, the UNESCO Charter for Intangible Cultural Heritage. Will she bring a statement to the House saying when we will join, and allow colleagues across the chamber to question what further steps the government might take to promote expertise, experience that epitomises the best of Britain?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman both for his question, but also the diligent work that he and his colleagues have done by raising the profile and shining a spotlight on these incredible heritage crafts and skills that we ought to be celebrating, retaining and educating others about. I shall certainly write to the Secretary of State for DCMS, given that he has missed the questions that were today, and I will ask her to inform him about the timetable.
Chair of the Backbench Committee, Ian Mearns.
Very grateful, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, can I wish you and members across the House a very happy new year. Can I thank the Leader of the House for the business statement and for announcing the backbench business next Thursday. And can I also give her advance notice that we have a very heavily subscribed application for a debate on Holocaust Memorial Day on Thursday the 25th of January if we're allocated the time. Holocaust Memorial Day itself is on the 27th of January. And the Backbench Business Committee would very much welcome applications for debate slots in Westminster Hall. We can secure for members debate slots on Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons. And while we've got a glut of applications for the Chamber itself, we'll very much welcome applications for Westminster Hall debates to be submitted as soon as possible. I'm also glad to report that application forms for backbench debates can now be actually attained from the vote office. So you can just pick a form up and fill it in and submit it. And on a local issue for my constituency, Mr. Speaker, the Tyne Bridge between Gateshead and Newcastle has been earmarked for funding from the Department of Transport to give it a very much needed repair job and upgrade. I'm afraid, though, that the money's been promised but hasn't been forthcoming, and the work is very much required to be started as soon as possible. Indeed, actually, if we don't get the work done, it won't be sound, solid and pristine for its anniversary in 4 years' time. So could the Leader of the House check with the Department of Transport, please, see what's happening, can we get those funds released so we can actually get on with the work?
Well, can I thank the Honourable Gentleman for his, again, very helpful advert for future backbench business debates, and in particular, it is good to hear that the Holocaust Memorial debate is going to be very well attended. It obviously has particular poignance this year. I also would congratulate him on his innovation with the vote office. That is indeed welcome progress. He mentions a very important constituency matter, and as well as the particular landmark anniversary that is taking place, it is a very important thoroughfare for his constituents. Given that the next transport questions is not until February, I shall write on his behalf and raise it with the Secretary of State.
Sir Charles Walker.
Mr. Speaker, you will know as a Lancashire MP that salmon stocks in this country running our rivers are on a knife edge. Can I ask, Mr. Speaker has many, many famous salmon rivers near his home. Can I ask the Leader of the House if we can have an urgent debate on the decline in this iconic species, salmon, in England? And as part of that debate, we will have to cover the impact that cormorant predation is having on salmon smolts. And before I sit down, I must draw the House's attention to my register of members' interests. I am a former, very undistinguished chair of the Angling Trust. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your patience.
I did have salmon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I thank my honourable friend, and I know this is a matter of concern to many honourable and right honourable members around the country. I know in my own county there are a number of rivers that are particularly suffering because of the issues that he raises. Given that the next relevant questions is not until February, I will write on his behalf to the Secretary of State to make them aware of this.
Florence Session.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Happy New Year to you and staff. As my honourable friend, the Shadow Leader of the House, outlined, a number of the handling of the Post Office scandal and delayed justice will be familiar to so many people, including my constituents, who are caught up in outrageous similar scandals, from Grenfell to Windrush to the contaminated blood. In each case, ministers tell them that there's nothing they can do until they are forced into action by public shame. So can the Leader of the House please give us government time to make progress of victims of other similar scandals similar to the Post Office?
Good question.
Well, I know that many honourable members have constituents that are still waiting for compensation or issues to be resolved on a number of fronts. I shan't repeat what I said in the opening remarks to the Honourable Lady, the Shadow Leader of the House, but what I will say is that I will raise with the Cabinet Office and ask what more the head of the civil service can do to ensure that lessons are being learnt from particularly the last few weeks. I do know that the Cabinet Office does look and evaluates inquiries and other such work to try and improve subsequent work. That has certainly happened with regard to particularly big public inquiries. What is good practice? Everything from looking after witnesses to ensuring that they're done speedily. But I will make sure that the relevant people in the Cabinet Office have heard the Honourable Lady's concerns, and I'm sure they're echoed by many members across the House.
Harriet Baldwin.
Mr Speaker, on Friday, February the 23rd, my private member's bill, Hereditary Peerages, Female Succession, is on the order paper, but sadly it's number 5, and I'm worried that we may not have much time to debate it. And I wondered if the Leader of the House could allocate some government time for a debate on this constitutional sexism that means that 1/8 of the seats in the other place are reserved for men only. And I wonder if by having that debate we would be able to seek government support, but also show the strength of feeling across this House that this constitutional sexism needs to end.
Well, the Honourable Lady will have heard the response from across all sides of this House in support of her private member's bill. I will congratulate her on her diligence. I know that she has for several years been working with the Cabinet Office to really ensure that any impediment to her bill-making progress is dealt with. And it is a very narrow bill. It is not looking at inheritance or any such issues like that. I will certainly make sure that the relevant minister at the Cabinet Office is aware that her bill is coming forward. I know she is in discussion with many ministers about this, and I will certainly make sure that if I can facilitate any of those conversations, I stand ready to do so.
Vera Hobhouse. Madam Deputy Speaker, more than 10 hospitality venues close every day in the UK. Before Christmas, I visited the wonderful Abbey, Delhi and Bath to hear about the challenges hospitality businesses face in my constituency, and they told me one solution may be a sliding scale of VAT, which could result in both more tax revenue for the government and higher profits for small businesses. Can we have a statement from the relevant Government Minister to hear what the government will do to support hospitality businesses in 2024?
Well, the Honourable Lady raises a very important issue. She will know that the Treasury in particular have been very concerned about this sector. It provided particular support to them through the pandemic years, but since then has also continued to support them through rate relief and so forth. I do fully appreciate that VAT thresholds in particular are a problem for these type of businesses. I will certainly make sure that my right honourable friend the Chancellor has heard what she has said today, but she will know, she's a very experienced parliamentarian, what she can do in the approach to the budget to ensure these issues are addressed.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My right honourable friend referred in her earlier remarks to arm's length government agencies, of which the Post Office is just one. I'm sure members across the House will have had experience of tracking down decision makers within these organisations and holding them to account on behalf of our constituents. Could we have a debate about the accountability of these agencies and how we may emerge from that debate as to how we can move forward to make them more accountable?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for raising that suggestion. I think that would be a very timely debate indeed. I've already expressed my views on the subject, but I know that the Minister also on Monday spoke about how key accountability is and really ensuring that there can be good oversight of those arm's length bodies. He knows how to apply for a debate, and I'm sure it would be well attended if he secured one.
Chris Elmore.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituent, Mr Richard Trout, had to wait over 18 months to receive a national insurance refund from HMRC worth more than £1,300 from the tax year 21-22. HMRC still hasn't responded to his complaints or indeed his request for a complaint on a refund. So can the Leader ask for a written ministerial statement on what Treasury Ministers will do to provide more support to HMRC civil servants to try and deal with these backlogs? Because in a cost of living crisis, none of our constituents can afford to have to wait 18 months for these refunds. It isn't acceptable.
I completely agree with what the honourable gentleman has said, and of course, unlike HMRC, which will, if it is owed money, accrue interest, it is not a reciprocal practical arrangement. Given that the Minister will not be at questions until later next month, I'll write if he will give me the details of the case, and hopefully we will be able to get this swiftly resolved for his constituent.
Chief Villiers.
Debate on bus priority measures, so I can express the strong opposition of my constituents to proposals by Barnet Council and the Mayor of London to introduce bus lanes on the A1000 in High Barnet and Whetstone, because they will cause huge congestion, they will damage local businesses, and they are not needed or wanted.
Well, my right honourable friend is right that any such proposal should really be developed with input from the local community, and it is something I think has gone wrong if the community are so galvanised against a scheme that is due to come to their area. The next transport questions is not until the 8th of February, but I will make sure that the Secretary of State knows about the Honourable Lady's concerns, but I'm afraid the decision taker on that is going to be the London Mayor, and I would hope that he would listen to the Honourable Lady and her constituents.
Rachel Maskell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. When we ask written questions, and when our officers require information from government departments, our constituents expect a comprehensive response. However, in particular in the Visa and Immigration Service, we are finding we're just getting standardised responses when we have got desperate people who are in fear for their futures. And so can the Leader of the House talk to the Home Office about how we can have comprehensive responses so we actually know the timelines, the detail and what the delays are in processing cases?
Well, I'm sorry to hear that the Honourable Lady and perhaps other colleagues are not getting the quality of replies that they need. She will know that we took some measures with the Home Office to try and improve their correspondence services to this House, including actually getting the Permanent Secretary to come in and see me. She will know there are surgeries available for honourable members from the Home Office, but I will certainly make sure that the Permanent Secretary has heard again what she has said, and I will also make sure that my teams who work with the parliamentary clerks in those departments have heard what the Honourable Lady has said as well, and will pass that back.
Raymond Chisty.
Deputy Speaker, yesterday at Prime Minister's Questions, it was a real pleasure to welcome the former Deputy Chief of the General Staff, Lieutenant General Sir Chris Teckwell, now the Chief Royal Engineer. The Royal Engineers are a key part of community life in the Medway towns, and their ranks make up 10% of the British Armed Forces. The Leader of the House knows from her own experience the United Kingdom has some of the best and the finest armed forces in the world. However, there is a real question about recruitment and retention in the British Armed Forces. Can we have an urgent statement from the Ministry of Defence with regards to what concrete steps the government's taking to address that? Madam Deputy Speaker, by virtue of declaration of interest, I used to be a reservist in the British Armed Forces.
Well, can I thank the Honourable gentleman for that very important question, and also his previous service. He will, unfortunately, the next defence questions date has yet to be finalised, so I will make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he has said today and the fact that he has raised it.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The strong rationale for HS2 was always about the capacity on the West Coast Main Line rather than the speed. But we now learn at the Select Committee that when HS2 starts to run from London to Birmingham, it will actually mean fewer seats on trains further north to Manchester, reducing the capacity. So, given that the government has created this mess by cancelling HS2 to Manchester, can we have a debate or a statement or a debate in government time on how we increase capacity on the West Coast Main Line so Manchester is properly served by rail services?
Well, I thank the Honourable Gentleman for raising this important matter. I will certainly make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he has said today, given that questions is not until the 8th of February. I am sure that it will be not just about rail lines, it will be about rolling stock being purchased and many other issues. So I shall make sure that he has heard what the Honourable Gentleman has raised today.
Anna Firth.
Thank you, Very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm sure the whole House will be relieved to hear that the takeover of Southend United Football Club was finally settled over the festive period. So would my right honourable friend join me in congratulating the Conservative leader of Southend City Council, Councillor Tony Cox, for his exceptional efforts in getting this across the line, and of course Justin Rees, the new owner. But would my right honourable friend update this House on when the Football Governance Bill is going to be debated? Many members want to contribute to that debate to make sure that we have a more secure future for English football.
Well, I'm sure I speak for the whole House when we say we're very delighted to hear that Southend United is alive and kicking, shall we say. And I very much appreciate this as a Portsmouth fan, how much that will mean to the local community, and I congratulate everyone for all that they have done to ensure that, and in particular Councillor Tony Cox, who I understand played a major role in that. I think that the Football Governance Bill has support from all sides of this House. We will bring it forward very swiftly, and further business will be announced in the usual way.
Dame Diana Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think we all across the House welcome the action of the government this week in relation to the Horizon scandal, the biggest miscarriage of justice in the United Kingdom. So, does the Leader of the House think it will take a ITV drama for the government to act quickly on the infected blood scandal, which is, of course, the largest treatment disaster in the history of the NHS? And as we already have the recommendations, the final recommendations on compensation from Sir Brian Langstaff, why next week can the government not bring forward a statement setting out that compensation will start to be paid from next week?
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for raising this issue yet again. I am confident, and I'm in regular touch with the Paymaster General, it will not take an ITV drama for us to get this resolved. He is working through what the Honourable Lady will know is some very difficult issues. He has the final shift in this particular story, and I'm confident he is going to deliver on it. We were all shocked, I think, by the layer on layer of injustice that was levelled against those that suffered in the Post Office Horizon scandal. The Honourable Lady and I know that, terrible and shocking though that was, the infected blood inquiry is on another level. And we want to ensure that these people, whether they were infected directly or they have been affected in some way, that they get justice. We are absolutely determined to do that, and I know that the Paymaster General is going to deliver.
Andrew Jones.
Speaker, I've met with several families in my constituency whose children have education, health and care plans, yet still experience difficulties finding SEND support. I've taken their cases up with senior council officers, and indeed these council officers tell me that SEND is the #1 financial challenge for the council. So can we have a debate on the changes made in the Children and Families Act and the effect this is having on the increase in demand for services in local authorities? In North Yorkshire, for example, alone, just last year, 1,000 cases the council believes are attributable to changes made within that act.
Well, my normal answer that the Honourable Gentleman needs to apply for a debate, and I'm sure it will be well attended, is not required because there is one this afternoon. My honourable friend is always first out of the blocks, and so he has got the points he would wish to raise there in Hansard before anyone else, and I congratulate him for doing so.
Patricia Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Leader of the House is always keen to talk about competent government. Yet her government pays £318 million every single day in debt interest, and national debt is £37,730 for every man, woman and child in the UK. It has burned £4,200 million worth of PPE and has wasted £66,600 million on HS2, which is now just a rail link from London to Birmingham. So, in the spirit of her interest in competent government, will the Leader of the House make a statement stating out which of these particular achievements she feels most clearly illustrates the competence of her government?
The Honourable Lady is right that we have been through some very difficult challenges, and responding to a global pandemic is one of them. And yet, despite all those difficulties, we still managed to have people in England paying lower tax than the people in Scotland. And we also have managed to have a balanced budget, as opposed to the Scottish National Party, which are £2 million adrift over the next 4 years.
Elliot Coleman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. St Helier Hospital has been saved, thankfully. A&E and maternity is now being protected within the London Borough of Sutton, and a new second state-of-the-art hospital is being built in our borough as well. Now, works are already underway to prepare the land, and improvement works are happening at the hospital, but could I please ask the Leader of the House if we can have a debate in government time on the progress of delivering the government's new hospital programme and the benefits that has for my constituents in Coshall and Wallington?
Well, can I congratulate my honourable friend on all that he has done to secure new facilities. I think he's got 2 new healthcare facilities in his local area. He will certainly know how to apply for a debate, and I would envisage that it wouldn't just cover that capital infrastructure, it would also cover the massive uplift to healthcare professionals, because no good having just bricks and mortar, and he will know that we have smashed our manifesto target in recruiting 50,000 new nurses.
Gareth Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. A ceasefire in Gaza is desperately needed, one that begins with humanitarian pauses and becomes sustained, so that the remaining hostages can be got out, and crucially too, so that aid can be got in to Gaza. Given that UN agencies are critical to that aid to Gaza, but have only secured just over half of the $1.2 billion needed to implement their response plan to support the immediate humanitarian needs in Gaza and the West Bank, can we have a debate in government time on what more Britain can do to galvanise international efforts behind the UN's flash appeal to support the Palestinians?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this, and for also providing an advert to that because of that unmet need. He will know that, as well as stepping forward and providing aid, not just in this particular humanitarian crisis, but also to support people prior to October, that the UK has played a considerable role in not just providing funding, but also getting other people to pledge and deliver finance. I shall make sure that the Foreign Secretary has heard his concerns in that area, and I will also make sure that the Minister for International Development, I write to him and ask him to contact the Honourable Gentleman's office to update him on what more is being done.
Fiona Bruce.
Speaker, can we have a debate on the UK government's support for Nigeria to defend freedom of religion or belief in light of the appalling atrocity which took place on Christmas Eve in Plateau State? At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a coordinated attack by Fulani militants saw 15 villages attacked and approximately 200 people killed in one of the largest mass attacks in recent years. Christians appeared to be specifically targeted as the militants went from door to door seeking out church pastors to kill. A debate would enable us to join calls for justice, restoration and humanitarian support for the thousands displaced.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for raising this appalling atrocity. It is one of the largest mass attacks we have seen in recent history, and would have brought absolute terror to that community. She will know that the Foreign Office is doing considerable work through the Strengthening Peace and Resilience in Nigeria programme. They will have been very shocked and disappointed to see this take place, and I shall make sure that both the Foreign Secretary and the Minister for International Development have heard her raise what she has.
Stephanie Peacock.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Leader of the House said she'd take no lessons on the NHS, yet in the last 4 years alone, patients waiting more than 4 hours in Barnsley A&E has risen by 400%. So why, under this Conservative government, do my constituents have to wait so long for basic health care?
The Honourable Lady will know that we are dealing with the unprecedented challenges caused because of the aftermath of the pandemic. She will know that we have invested record amounts into the NHS. She will know also that there has been an unprecedented uplift to the number of healthcare professionals. She will know also from the figures out today that those waiting lists are coming down. We will continue to do that. It's taken a huge amount of investment in diagnostic centres, in increasing 2 million more operations to crack through that backlog. But I'm afraid, although COVID itself is over, some of the issues that were caused by and through that pandemic, we are still dealing with. But we will get through it, and we will return to normal business in the NHS.
John Penrose.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Ombudsman concluded there was official maladministration for WASPy women who weren't properly informed about changes to their state pensions, and we've been waiting for their further report on whether this caused injustice to the victims. I understand a provisional version of that report is now written, with a final version therefore imminent. Given most people expect there will have been injustice in many cases, and the scale of redress which will be required where it is found, can the Leader confirm that the Government is aware of these provisional findings and let us know when Ministers will bring forward details of a redress scheme for Parliament to debate and promptly approve?
Well, the honourable gentleman, my honourable friend, raises a very important matter that will be, this is a critical piece of work. I will make sure that both the Minister and the Ombudsman's office have heard his concerns today, and I will ask that the Minister give him an update on timing.
Ian Lavery.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. School children in South East Northumberland have always enjoyed the ability to choose which school they wanted to attend. But due to a change in the oversubscription criteria, this has meant that many kids, mainly in rural areas, are separated from people who they used to go to school with, their friends and family, and also have often got much more in times of journey time to get to different schools. Can we have a debate in government time about the student allocation in schools in South East Northumberland, please?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the situation in the honourable gentleman's constituency. It is really important that we have genuine school choice. That's part of the way that we can drive standards. And, of course, you can only have that if there is good local planning about school places and people are anticipating that need. I will certainly make sure what he said today has been heard by the Secretary of State for Education. The next question is on the 29th of January if he wishes to raise it directly. But I think this is going to be an issue about local planning and decision making.
James Sunderland.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm very much looking forward to welcoming the Leader to Bracknell on Saturday. Whilst there are many challenges out there, and sadly some negativity and vitriol on social media too, I wonder if she might reinforce her customary positive narrative by giving a shout-out for all that is good about East Berkshire. Notably, our fantastic education and employment opportunities, our superb sense of community, and all those who are doing so much to help others.
I'm very much looking forward to visiting the honourable gentleman's constituency. We have been through a rough few years, but the people of this country and his constituency have been absolutely stoic. I know that his local area enjoys nearly full employment, high average wages. I think all 40 schools in his area are rated good or outstanding, and that his business community have attracted unprecedented foreign investment. I know he is eager to do more for his constituents, but I look forward to learning more about what his community is delivering when I visit shortly.
I'll just gently point out that it is quite important to perhaps ask the Leader of the House something that might relate to her business in the House, rather than shout-outs, which are not quite appropriate for business questions. Liz Twist.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I invite the Leader of the House, and in fact all honourable members, to join me and Samaritans on Monday for a brew? It's Brew Monday. Now, Blue Monday may have been a term invented by the travel industry to encourage us to book holidays, but we've converted it to Brew Monday, where we can talk about the importance of talking to each other in an effort to prevent suicide. But to back that up, can we have a debate in government time on the National Suicide Prevention Strategy and look at what else we can do besides Brew Monday to prevent suicide?
Well, can I, for all colleagues, thank the Honourable Lady for all the work that she has done over a long period of time in raising awareness of this issue, and particularly of Brew Monday. We know that particular week is a difficult one, particularly in the wake of Christmas. Credit card bills arrive, all sorts of things happen to add further stress to individuals. And so I thank her for raising awareness and encouraging everyone to take part in it. She will know how to apply it for a debate, but she, I hope, will recognise that in the last budget, the Chancellor is providing an extra 10 million over the next few years to support voluntary community and social enterprise sector through the suicide prevention grant. And we do have that strategy, and I'm sure if she applied for a debate, it would be well attended.
Andrew Selous.
Thank you. Last Friday I visited residents affected by the floods in Leighton Buzzard, and I've also had a communication from the leader of Central Bedfordshire Council pointing out the great upset about damage to residential properties, damage to highways in the local authority area. Now, although we were severely affected, we are not a local authority designated under the government's flood recovery framework. So could the leader give me some guidance on how we can get more investment by water companies, the Environment Agency and the internal drainage boards to make sure we do protect those properties, protect highways and prevent this awful event happening and affecting people in future?
Well, can I first say how sorry I am to hear that his constituents have been affected. He will know that through the government's long-term policy statement published in 2020, there is a methodical plan to protect properties, and I think we've protected about 600,000 homes from flooding over the last few years with an unprecedented investment. But clearly, some areas are not applicable to particular schemes. Given that the next questions is not until next month, and this will be a very imminent issue for his local colleagues, I will write to the Secretary of State and ask that someone from DEFRA contact his local authority to discuss the particular issues they are having and to see what support they can provide.
Andrew Bridgen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In the wake of the Post Office Horizon IT scandal, could a minister from the Cabinet Office make a statement and announce an immediate investigation into all Fujitsu IT systems in use by the government and those that have been used historically, to see if there are established whether there are bugs and glitches in these systems? And, Madam Deputy Speaker, I think we need to particularly look at the Child Maintenance Service, which I'm aware used a Fujitsu system until at least 2021.
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this, and I would refer him to what has been said in Hansard already with regard to the statement in the UQ earlier this week. I shall certainly make sure that both the Post Office Minister, but also the Cabinet Office Minister with oversight of procurement has heard what he has raised today.
Elaine Saxby.
Deputy Speaker, will my right honourable friend join me in congratulating Watermouth Valley Camping Park in my North Devon constituency, which has been named the best campsite in the UK in the Camping and Glamping Awards? Yeah. And could we have a debate in government time about how we can better support tourism and hospitality businesses by looking to reduce VAT to enable more businesses to enjoy similar successes?
First of all, let me congratulate Watermouth Valley Camping Park for its achievements, and she will know as we approach the budget that the Chancellor's door will be open to lobbying. I know other members have mentioned VAT rates in particular, and it surely is one of the upsides to our newfound freedoms that we are able to vary rates on products and services. And I know that this sector, the hospitality sector as well, will be keen to be asking for things in the forthcoming budget. I will certainly make sure that the Chancellor has heard what she has said.
Keir Rader.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Leader of the House for the upcoming business. Residents in the town of Sherburn and Elmet in my constituency have faced a wave of awful crime in recent months, with cars being stolen off drives and homes being burgled, and I'm sure the Leader of the House can appreciate just how stressful and traumatic this is for residents who feel unsafe in their own homes, compounded by the fact that Sherburn, like many other rural towns in Britain, doesn't have its own manned police station. In light of this, please can we have an urgent debate to discuss how we can support residents and local police forces like mine to tackle this growing and pernicious issue of rural crime?
Well, I thank the Honourable Gentleman for raising this. We do have a good record and roughly on the same resource since 2010. Once you strip out online fraud, we have halved crime. But there are some areas and some issues that remain stubborn, and it is particularly challenging in rural areas. I very much appreciate that. I will certainly make sure that the Home Office have heard the Honourable Gentleman's concerns. I know in other areas there is good practice where even if there is not a physical police station, there is a physical police presence, and I know that there is a lot of good practice being shared across police areas, but I will make sure that the Home Office has heard what he has said.
Bob Blackman.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my right honourable friend has mentioned the chaos that would have ensued had the RMT gone ahead with their strike on the Underground over this last week. The strike was called after all the other trade unions had accepted the 5% pay offer, and the RMT and other unions were told there was no more money left. However, at the very last moment, literally hours before the strike was due to start, the Mayor of London magically found £30 million. He's proposing to increase the council tax share in London by 8.7%. He refuses to give the Metropolitan Police the funding that they need, and indeed can find money for his vanity schemes. Yet he still carries on with the ULEZ expansion, which is hated across London. So could we have a debate in government time on the chaos that seems to be ensued in City Hall and its finances?
Londoners are enjoying the worst of all possible worlds. I think on the Mayor's own assessment, he has had spectacular failure with regard to strikes. I think there have been, under his tenure, 139 transport strikes that Londoners have had to endure. And my honourable friend is right. This is not just capitulating to unions and not protecting these basic public services. It is actually rewarding people for taking strike action. I'm not sure whether he has actually found £30 million, as there is some scepticism and questions being asked about his budget. He certainly hasn't found the 70 million shortfall in the Met's budget to continue their reforms and good work. It is a sorry state, and I hope it will not be too long before they will have someone in City Hall who will look after their interests and have the backbone to stand up to militant trade unions and realise that clobbering hard-working people and charities through ULEZ is not a good idea.
Margaret Greenwood.
Speaker, in November, the Carbridge Centre, which does important work with children and other residents in Woodchurch in my constituency, had its Barclays bank account closed without warning, despite the fact there was a very large amount of money in the account. It's one of the many of the charities across the country that's had this happen. This placed the centre in an extremely difficult situation as they couldn't pay in or out of the account. It impacted on the running of the centre and the payment of staff wages, and was especially problematic during the run-up to Christmas with the special activities that they had planned. I'm pleased to say that eventually they did go ahead thanks to the determination and commitment of the staff and trustees. Nonetheless, it is absolutely wrong that they have had to go through this. So could we have a debate in government time on the impact of such arbitrary decisions by banks such as Barclays on charities and on possible actions that can be taken against banks that act in this way?
I'm very sorry to hear what's happened in the Honourable Lady's constituency, and would applaud the staff and trustees who continued undeterred to provide those services and support to their local communities. I think in such cases I always hope that the public affairs departments of businesses, and in this case Barclays, are listening in to business questions, and I hope if they have not already done so and made redress for this, they will get in touch with the Honourable Lady's office. But I shall certainly make sure that the Minister has heard what has been said. And I think the difficulty in these situations is not just that something happens and an account is frozen or closed, but it is people are incapable of finding the answer as to why that has happened and trying to get it resolved. It's a shoddy situation. I hope Barclays will phone her this afternoon.
Andrew Weston.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In August last year, Partington Post Office in my constituency closed following the retirement of its long-serving postmistress. Partington is an incredibly isolated community with low levels of car ownership and appalling public transport, and of course its town centre banks have long since closed too. It is several miles to the nearest main post office, or for those without transport, a multiple-hour round trip. So could I ask the Leader of the House if we could have a debate in government time on the support available to post offices in isolated communities that do not qualify for the Rural Support Services grant, but for which reaching other post offices for those communities is incredibly challenging, in order to ensure that these services remain in communities such as Partington?
Well, I thank the Honourable Gentleman for raising this. He will know that work that is undertaken by the Post Office Minister, but also by the Department for Levelling Up, is looking at and runs a successful scheme as to how services might be retained in a local community, even if the bricks and mortar of the post office have been stood down. The next questions to the Department for Levelling Up, which I think runs that best practice scheme, is the 22nd of January, and I will just make sure that both relevant ministers have heard his concerns. He may wish to raise it at questions, but I will also ask their officers to get in touch with him.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and thanks again to the Leader of the House for the opportunity to ask a question on the state of freedom of religious belief. The persecution of Christians in Ukraine under Russian control. One pastor, Dmitry, suffered under Russian interrogation because of his evangelical faith, where Russian soldiers removed the crosses, stopped the services, fingerprinted everyone in the congregation and possessed church buildings. Russian actions against Christians in Ukraine must stop. At the same time, a new religious law has been introduced in Belarus. In 2023, Belarusian authorities have bulldozed and liquidated the Pentecostal New Life Church and detained and fined dozens of Christian religious leaders for perceived political activities. Blacklisted human rights organisations working on religious freedom issues. On January the 3rd, last week, Belarus signed a new law provisions imposing more restrictions on religious communities. So will the Leader of the House join me in denouncing this Belarusian law and ask the FCDO Minister to take this matter up with the Belarusian authorities? Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Gentleman for again shining a spotlight this week on two appalling situations, one in Belarus and the other in Russian-occupied Ukrainian territory. This will have been particularly concerning on the Orthodox calendar. We've just had Christmas last Saturday for many of those communities, and I will certainly make sure that the Foreign Office have heard his concerns. He knows that they will take these matters very seriously, but I thank him again for bringing it to the attention of the House.
Matt Weston.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Appreciate it. Could we have a debate in government time on the floods and flooding? Leader of the House will be very aware of the increasing incidence of such events, and we heard earlier from the member for South West Bedfordshire, which are having a huge impact on lives and livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of people across the country and so many of our constituencies. But not just the constituencies, it's having an impact on businesses, on our infrastructure, but also farmers in terms of their winter crops. And this is going to have a huge impact potentially on food prices as we get into the summer and the autumn. So I would urge the Leader of the House if she would grant a debate in government time on flooding.
Well, this is a concern, I think, to many colleagues across the House. He will know that we have invested unprecedented amounts in flood defences, the last tranche £5.2 billion, and have protected many communities, including 600,000 properties. He will know that some flooding is planned. There is some land set aside where we expect floods to take place, but he is right, we're facing more extreme weather events. I will certainly make sure that the Secretary of State has heard his concerns, and he may also wish to raise it directly with him on the 1st of February.
I thank the Leader of the House for answering the business questions, and we now have Statement, Minister